There you go. Worked. Perfect. All right, we are officially live. All right, so Igor, welcome to Intentional Living YouTube channel with myself, Abby Scott. It's great to have you here today. Um, and I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while because you not only are my coach, but a dear friend. I would call you a mentor, a guide, a leader. And I'm just excited to share our work together and you with my community and the rest of the world. So, welcome.
Thank you so much, Abby. It has been a wonderful ride, and I really appreciate this opportunity to spread whatever we have created as a wave, as a tsunami that I'm creating.
Yeah, tsunami. I like that. But it's more than just a wave. I totally agree. Yeah, tsunami. It's like get ready, world. Here we come. You never know what's going to happen. So true. So true. So Igor, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? And even knowing the incredible vacation time that you just had, I can't wait to actually hear how you answer this question today.
I am a dragon. What story do I live? When everything means nothing, I am free. When something means anything, I can create. I am the universe, and this is the best and most beautiful day of my life. This is actually the beginning of my document. It's the touchstone and reminder for me of who I truly am, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak that. And I will expand with a bit more worldly stuff on top of the beginning of my document. My name is Igor Furdik. I'm from Slovakia, Central Europe, the Switzerland of Central Europe, the country I love dearly, incredibly dearly, and I have been living on and off here for 50 years, more or less. This year I'm turning 50. And with regards to what I do, I have been an IT person for most of my life. What drew me there was the rationality of that and the possibilities that the IT world has given. And eventually I ended up in a role where I get to use my inner ability to connect with people with the rationality and preciseness of the IT. And at this moment, I'm a board member of an IT consulting company here in the Central Europe. And that's what I do by day. And by evenings and Saturdays, I am working on my project of transforming the Europe, Slovakia, Central Europe, and eventually the Europe. I don't care where it goes after that, but this is the starting point for me. And when I'm saying transforming, what I mean by that is providing a possibility for people to connect to the potential in them, to the higher self, to higher possibility within themselves, you know.
Hmm.
We all have had times in our lives when we knew we have ability to achieve more than we're achieving. We have
Yeah.
ability to create more of love, more of connection, more of whatever. And that is the project that I'm working on, basically helping people to connect to that possibility within them. Because when
Yeah.
you're coming from the place of your highest potential, Abby, and you know that we have gone through the process,
hmm We're going to talk about it more.
the path is more clear, the walking is a bit easier, and the growth is immense. So
Yeah. Endless possibilities. I think what's really interesting, you are like, as you were sharing, right? Like by night, by weekend, right? What you're trying to do, change the frequency, right? The energy of Europe. But what's so ironic is we're having a conversation between Europe and the US right now. So I just want to bring that into this space is like your work is much bigger than that, right? I know you have clients that you work with in the EU, but I think it's actually really beautiful just to like reflect back to you that it's way bigger than that today. So you have already changed the frequency of literally like the world. So I'm just dropping that in there for you as yeah, something for you to think about and to realize. Because that's the ripple of this work. And yeah, like we can even talk a little bit about right? Like how we got connected is because of those ripples that happened, right? I had, I'm part of a book club, right? And Christina started this book club. We read The Ultimate Coach, which is where I first came across the document, right? And we'll go into that, but to kind of fast forward a little bit is I really wanted to get serious and create my own document, right? And Christina had a conversation with her coach, right? Daryl, who I also know. All three of us went through our initial coach training together at IPEC, and they recommended you, right? Which is how I reached out to you, right? And now, as a result of our work, right, there's referrals happening across the US as well. So you have actually created like a worldwide movement, whether you realize it or not. It is here, Igor. So it's really cool. So thank you for yeah, for being the heartbeat of that from Slovakia.
Thank you for being the continuation of the incredible journey that we shared just before this recording.
Yeah.
This is exactly the synchronicity where the
Mm-hmm.
universe reminds me of the greatness that is. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
There's
You are welcome.
absolutely I'm touching lives of people around the globe.
Yeah, you are. How does it feel to hear that and say that?
Coming from a place of kindness, of acceptance, of humbleness, it feels right. It feels truly right.
Hmm.
Because and this goes, please, whoever listens to this, please listen to this piece. It's also about you. The universe is giving us the feedback of our own greatness. And the moment we embrace it and say yes to that, something shifts within us and consequently in the universe. As you were speaking that, I heard that. And I'm grateful to you for allowing me to see more of the greatness that is. I
I
am
mean,
that.
yeah, you are. You are. You are. But I think it goes back to the your why. Um, it's also in my document as well, right? So I think there's this moment of connection and just like we were saying, expanding possibility, right? And having that. So I love it. Now, so before we go into the document, I think it's going to kind of naturally go there. But I just want to pause because you introduced yourself very intentionally, right? You didn't go right into, I think, what most people do, which is, I am a dad, I go right to IT, I do this, I do that, right? You paused and you recited, right? That you are the dragon. And I know you just shared pieces of your document. So I think that's very different than how a lot of people would introduce themselves in the world today, right? So why did you introduce yourself in that way, Igor?
The simple answer is to create this possibility that I'm walking on for me first and foremost. And let me expand. Whenever I'm asked, so who are you? What are you doing? It seems like I'm just called to describe whatever the reality is looking for me.
Mm-hmm.
However, what is happening is I'm actually creating that reality as I speak it. If you ask me and you and you ask me, so who are you? And I say, I'm a terrible father. To me, it might seem that I'm just describing the reality of what is within me. However, as I speak it, I create it in your mind, and I create it also in my mind. If I say I am a geek, same thing happens. The document that we will go deeper into a bit later is tapping into a potential that is within every single one of us. We can call it subconscious, we can call it universe, we can call it God, whatever. But the document is tapping into the possibility of this creation. Anything, anything that has been created in this world began as a word that was spoken. The iPhone was created as a word. Let's create a new device. The Zoom that we're taking the call was also created as a word. Let's create this company that will connect people. The YouTube that you perhaps are watching the podcast on, or the interview on, was also created as a word.
Yeah.
So why not tap into this ability and create myself every single moment? Anew. And you might listen to it and hear woo-woo elements in that. That's what you get. What I'm inviting you, the
Listener, viewer.
listener is basically listen for the potential of truth, the grain of truth in this. If your mind and heart is open, that you will hear something that is able to shift your life. If you just shifted one more thing, just deleting from the introduction of yourself reminders of the terrible being you are and just focus on the things that you were able to achieve, your life is changed at that moment, at this moment.
Mm.
So the reason why I started with my own document is to remind myself and create possibility for you, the listener, to see something for yourself.
Yeah. So coming at it from this place of creation and possibility rather than I am this, that. So much more than that, right? Multidimensional. Yeah. Yeah. There's almost, Igor's almost like we could stop the recording right now because there's so much in what you just said. We're not going to, but I love that is planting that seed for everybody. It's not just like, what are we creating, but also what do we want to create? And like, how do we look through life in that way? And how different would our lives be if we just looked through that lens of creation? And just notice, right, what you said, but if we thought of it as like we are an extension, right, of our creation, there's pieces of that are like, wow, so cool, right? You came into this call with so many synchronicities, beautiful synchronicities that just lined up. Yeah. Then there's also pieces of that. And I think this is where, right, some of the reflection comes in with this document process that we're going to go into. But I'll be honest, sometimes we create things that like aren't as sexy and fun and joyful and light. We do. We are human beings, and we'll go into this. We create experiences of suffering, of tension that actually don't have to be there if we don't want them to be there. And
exactly.
how do we start to think about that? Yeah. Yeah. So you introducing yourself how you did, right? Again, very intentional. It's from this place of what Igor is creating in this world. Yeah. Yeah.
May I
Beautiful.
add one more thing,
Of
because it
course.
ties into what you said. We every single moment we're creating as we speak, and sometimes we create suffering. Sometimes we create something painful. The key is to remember whenever you catch yourself, or whenever I catch myself, it's me who is creating that, and I can change that.
Mhm.
If I create this interview as, oh my God, it's terrible, guess what I will be getting? A terrible
Yeah.
interview. The moment I catch myself, I am creating this interview as the best interview I have ever taken. I have been part of, and I want to acknowledge you for your deep listening and for reflection for the listeners. And I invite again the listeners to be able to see the possibility, the choice that we all have to change our lives in an instant.
Yeah. Yeah. We have the power. We really do. It's nobody outside of us, right? It's all within. It really is. It's all within. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's, it's just, I find it very empowering, inspiring, right? That it does. It starts with us. Like, and I think the other piece is like, we've talked about this in coaching sessions, it is that easy. It can be that simple. Just come back home and how do we look at this differently? What do we want to create in this moment? And there's going to be those moments where, whoop, old habits come in, old things, right? It's okay. Whoop, right back here, right back here. So I think that's a perfect little segue into, we've dropped this verbiage, the document already in our interview today. And it's what we're going to talk about because I recently, like I mentioned to the listeners, went through the document process with you. I think it was 3 months, 4 months. I don't know. I probably stretched you a little long because that's what I needed. And I'm so grateful that you held that space for me as I went through it. But Igor, tell the listeners, what is the document? Where did this come from? Let's start there.
The original mention of the process that we went through was created through a wonderful human being and a coach that shifts lives of millions, Steve Hardison. And it came from the book that you actually mentioned a bit earlier, the book called The Ultimate Coach, which is a book about you, about me, about you, the listener.
Yeah.
And it's basically a distillation of decades of work of Steve Hardison into something that simply works in conscious creation of a new life for me. And I'm fully aware that it's not the only way that we have at our disposal to change our lives for the better for ourselves, for the better of my family, for the better of my team, for the better of the society. No, it's not the only way. It's one of the ways. There is meditation, there is religion, there is psychology, Carl Jung, there is non-duality, three principles. Everything points basically to the same infinite space of creativity. What I found for myself, the document, is a way that allows us to recreate ourselves. Now let me slow down. This was a bit of history into how the document was created. Now for something that it will help your listeners to connect to this. Basically, the document, to put it very simply, is a set of stories truths, beliefs that I have about myself that drive my life. The fact about the document is every single person on this earth has one.
Yep.
It's the self-talk, it's the self-monologue that we run in our heads. Oh, I'm an excellent entrepreneur. I'm very bad with women. I'm a terrible father. I'm an excellent husband. I'm a great speaker. I'm a terrible presenter. It seems like it's the truth. However, it's just really the stories about me that I believe to be true. And as said, every single person has one set of these. And every single document is absolutely perfect for you at this moment. It helps you to get here, now. It's not that, Abby, your document is so terrible, you should change it. No, 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 no. It's not the place to come from.
Oh,
The place to come from is really seeing the beautiful power that the current set of beliefs help me to get here. I use a couple of examples.
yeah.
My original document had a phrase, I'm a terrible, horrible father who abandoned my kids when they needed me the most, which to some extent was true. My first marriage, I left it when my daughter was 7 and my son was 4. And ever since then, I was basically a weekend father, a father for 1 week a day. Is it an ideal? No. However, this particular statement in my default document, I'm a terrible, horrible father, was a way for me to whip myself into being with my kids. I wanted not to be the terrible, horrible father, so I made sure that I met with them every Wednesday. And I met with them every second weekend. And I sometimes whipped myself, sometimes just created a beautiful program for them, and they have beautiful memories from that. That document helped me to get to a place where I have kids that are beautiful.
Mhm.
And eventually I saw a possibility to create something different. And as I went myself through the process of the document creation, I saw, yes, I left my kids and I saw a possibility. I am an incredible father and unique role model who loves and supports our admirable kids, Victor, Teresa, and Igor. And I live for them and I die for them. As I'm speaking that, I have goosebumps because I know this statement is so incredibly true. It happened to me multiple times. Even as I was whipping myself, I'm a terrible, horrible father, that when my daughter or my son needed me, I jumped into a car and I drove whatever amount of kilometers was necessary. I was there. I was always a role model, a unique role model for them. Always.
Mhm.
Kids are incredibly smart. Yes, they listen to what we speak and they learn from whom we are being. And as I saw this other possibility, guess what I choose to be? I chose to be an incredible father and unique role model. And coming from this space, am I ideal? No, of course not.
We're all
There's
human.
always more to be done. However, when I come from a place, I'm a terrible, horrible father, I beat myself up, and probably the doing coming out of this space is way less efficient as coming from a space, I'm an incredible father and unique role model.
Yeah. The energy's the energy frequency is very different within you, but then also felt by those around you, right? Because energy can be seen, heard, and felt. Yeah. Yeah. So Igor, thank you for bringing in that example. Like, I guess what I'm curious for the listener, right? Again, going back to this idea of creation, right? You created one document, right? And then noticing how your creation for this second document and those specific statements changed over time. Yeah, very different. When did you create your first one? And then how much time was in between to when you got to that second possibility of that same statement? What did that look like, to put it in perspective for people listening?
When you say first one, are you talking about the default document?
Yeah, was your well, let me ask this question. That first statement that you shared, right? I am a terrible father. Was that your default document, or was that actually in one of your documents that you
No,
created?
no, no. It was part of my default document.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
as you properly, okay, so let me slow down and let me start again. We live our lives as human beings, right? The moment I am born, I have my default document. The reason why the kids are so lighthearted and they're able to play, jump, recover from anything and just enjoy life, they can be incredibly angry at you. I hate you. I will never speak to you again. And in 5 seconds, they're, oh my God, you're the best father. I love you, daddy. It's because they're coming from the default document, which is basically, I'm here just to learn. I'm love, embodied love.
Yeah.
And as we live our lives, stuff gets added. As you pointed out beautifully, and thank you for asking this question, the phrase, I'm a terrible, horrible father, who abandoned my kids when they needed me the most, was probably added by me to my default document. It was not a conscious process. I never wrote that. I never wrote that. But it was added by me when I actually left my ex-wife. And I
Yeah.
remember to this day when I was sitting in the car, the last day I was fully with my first family, and I saw my ex walking with the kids, and my heart broke. Because suddenly I was not the father that yes was having parties and yes was on the business trips, but it was his house and he was I was with my kids. I suddenly became this father who abandoned my kids. I didn't know that I did this to me, but it was part of my default document.
Yeah.
And it helped
So,
me in so and go on.
well, no, I think what's really important, and again, just like slow it down for the listener, is this default document. Like you said, we all have them. It is these unconscious thoughts, emotions, and actions that are just happening, that again, they just become a natural habit, right? For better or for worse, it becomes a habit. And we don't even realize what we are saying to each other, what we are feeling, because that just becomes part of life, right? And you said it. You didn't even realize that this thoughts came in for you and you started creating your life from this place of I'm a terrible father. It was there, right? But then what I'm hearing you say is like there was an awakening, right? From making it unconscious to conscious. So take us through that process. Like when did that first happen?
This conscious process started through the process of creation of my first conscious document, which
Yeah.
was in November 2022. And part of the document creation is basically uncover the default document. And one more thing, when I say default document, in every single default document of you, the listener, there are areas where you are absolutely flourishing. So it does, when I say default document, it's not this pile of garbage. It's just something that was created. It's a house, and some rooms are tidy and some rooms are not that tidy.
Yep.
What we're now delving deeper into is the not so tidy room of my original default document. I just want to underline this. It's not me preaching. No, it's really just pointing out. As part of the document creation, what we do, we basically look into every single room of our imaginary house of my being and look for the rooms where there is a space for improvement. Let me put it like that.
We got to clean up that dirty laundry that's maybe on the floor, you know?
Exactly. Pick up the socks and
Yeah,
take it to the washing machine.
you got it.
So this process happened in November 2022. And as part of the process, I wrote the phrase, I'm a terrible, horrible father. And the moment I wrote it and I made it from, yes, nagging thought somewhere in the back of my head and made it something real, I started shaking uncontrollably. I started sobbing as I was looking at all of the unhelpful thoughts that I wrote, and I knew were true for me and about me. I was sobbing. Why? Because what I wrote on that piece of paper, I would not do to the worst enemy I had. I would not think that about the worst enemy.
Yeah.
Yet, on some level, I was thinking that about myself.
We're our own, like we're our harshest critic, right? I think is what we always say. Yeah. And it's doing that excavation work of what are we really saying to ourselves? And would we ever say this to anybody outside of us? No. But we all do. We all have those thoughts. We all do. I had 4 pages of them when I went through the process, right? And even today, they still come up. Yeah. Yeah.
And the process helped me to look at the possibility behind the thing. One thing I want to add, both I'm a terrible, horrible father who abandoned my kids when they're needing me the most, and I'm an incredible father and unique role model, can and are true at the same time. It's not that I'm denying the fact that I left them. It's about the fact that I saw the possibility that this is also true and I can come from this. And as you said, the default document sometimes pops up, and that is absolutely okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I judge myself for having my default document, I'm actually piling more judgment onto a pile of judgments that were already there.
Yeah. Yep.
So my iteration, my first iteration of my document was created in November 2022. And I've been
November
living
20.
a
Yeah.
document basically ever since.
Yeah. Have you changed your document? And if so, how many times since November 2022 to today? Well,
There
you
is a there is a quote. There is a quote by I think it was by I heard it from
bestie.
Steve, and it is the thing that is hardest for me to learn makes me the best at teaching it. My initial document was I was so incredibly proud that it was just a couple of statements. I didn't have to go through the entire process, and it was like 20 statements, the 20 new powerful statements. And I was engaging with them on and off. And it took me half a year of basically lukewarm reminder or lukewarm usage of my new conscious document to see a new possibility. And the universe helped me immensely. He created the universe created a pressure in my life, both in my work life and at my personal life. In my work life, through some failed things that happened because of me, not being my highest self, and in my personal life, because my father had a medical condition where I realized, Igor, you can live your default document for the next couple of years and nothing will change, or you can do something differently. So basically, it was 4th of June 2023 when I consciously told myself that I am creating myself again and again and again. With regards to iterations, as I was engaging with my first version of my document, I had a guide in the beginning, and I didn't need anybody between there and today. There is a different story about that. But basically, I was on my own, and I was uncovering more and more areas of my new document that were added. Let me give you an example. As I truly started living my document, and for instance, creating my gorgeous wife as I am a faithful and dedicated husband to my beloved, amazing, beautiful, energetic, sexy goddess and wife Klara, whom I love infinitely and pepper her with endless love, attention, and brightening our lives every day. I added the word energetic somewhere, I don't know, in the beginning of summer 2023, because I saw how Steve Hardison is creating his wife Amy so vivaciously, so many adjectives. And I saw the purpose of creating her for me in that. And as I expanded my document, I saw that as I'm creating her in my mind as energetic, something shifted in me and in her. And we were on a vacation, and I told her that, Klara, I noticed something. You're quite energetic over the last couple of weeks. And I explained to her that what was happening. She looked at me and said, can you put into your document something about healthy and thin? I started laughing. Oh, Klara, no. It doesn't work like that. And as I was speaking these words from my mouth, I saw the innocence of misunderstanding. If what I'm talking and I was experiencing at the same time is true, of course, I not only can add this to my document, I chose to do that. And I told to Klara, love, the son of my life, the son, I will add my gorgeous, healthy, fit, and active wife, Klara. I will not create you as thin because I love you as you are. In case you want to get thin, you're welcome to do that, and I will love you for that. So, and ever since that time, I added a line. I am that I serve people, and especially my gorgeous, healthy, fit, and active wife, Klara, whom I love infinitely, and with love, gratitude, and acknowledgement. But to shorten the answer, basically, as I was truly engaging with my document, the universe basically nudged me in areas where my relatively abridged version of the document grew to a state where I felt confident. This process was taking basically and it was done by me, by truly engaging with my document between the 4th of June 2023 and basically end of year 2023. And in the beginning of 2024, my document basically has stayed the same. There were just small polishes, one of them being introducing my document as I am Dragon. And there is a deep meaning for that for me, but the document is for me, it's not for the listeners. And the listeners can be inspired by my or your document.
So two things there, Igor. One, the power of language. You taught me this as we went through the process, right? And I just want to acknowledge for those listening, again, you talked about, yes, we can do things, but what do we choose to do? Very different, very different. And you chose to use the word fit, not thin, right? Fit. And again, I just want to pause there because that is part of this process with the document. And you taught me this, right? Is that power of language. And again, what do we want to create? Do we want to create fit or do we want to create thin? And just noticing there's very different energetics with that. And probably things underneath that, as we know, right? That become why we choose the words we do. So the documents, for those listening, it's, I guess at the surface, you could say it's a lot of possibility statements. It is so much deeper than that. And just you talking about the power of language, literally every single word that is in your document, that is in my document, that is in Steve's document, anybody's document, is so intentional and conscious. And it is coming, right? Because of the process, it is coming from this place ultimately, right? Of how do we want to create this world based on, those default documents, maybe some of those judgments that we had. So it's, the document is like, it is just, I guess I just want to highlight it is so much more than just like a piece of paper and statements. Like every word that is said, and again, I'm a newbie in this, right? And just like you talked about, I'm not a newbie, power of language. Thank you for that. Right. But I think I finished my document at the end of 2024, probably beginning of 2025. And when I speak my document, just like I could feel as you shared with us at the beginning, I am so deeply ingrained in every single word that it literally like shakes me to the core. And I mean that in the best way possible, but I know what's behind those words that I chose. And those words are, it's a remembrance for me, it's a healing for me. And it's also this new hope, this new possibility. So I just wanted to pause there, Igor, because I felt like that was really powerful with the example you shared and just give a little bit more context of why you did what you did. Because again, that is creation for those listening. Like it is at that level. And if we start to bring that awareness to our lives, imagine where we can go, right? And I think we've both seen and witnessed the transformation that can happen when we do that through this process.
Yeah, and I want to, as you were speaking, it makes sense to expand on what I shared about my gorgeous wife, Klara. Because it might seem, Igor, you're just lying to yourself. That's about seemingly valid point to come from. What actually has happened, because it truly became part of my identity, of my conscious identity. It is a place to which I return every single day. I am that I serve people, and especially my gorgeous, healthy, fit, and active wife, Klara, whom I love infinitely, with love, gratitude, and acknowledgement. What actually started happening in my life is I'm coming from that space. Whenever I am not this piece of my document, meaning I'm not serving either people or especially my wife Klara, with love, gratitude, and acknowledgement, I return to that. And guess what starts happening? I start changing. I create a possibility for people around me and especially for her. She starts to be curious. She starts growing into a possibility by me creating her in me in this beautiful way. It creates space for her to come into. It's not an obligation. Klara, I now create you as my gorgeous, healthy, fit, and active wife. Klara, you should be here as all the time. No, no, no. It's not the place to come from.
Okay.
I can choose to come from this space regardless of how Klara is behaving. And she is a darling to me.
Mm-hmm.
Without her, I am not the man I am. If I continue on the path She has no choice but to join me on this journey. And she is getting fitter every moment. Where she was 2 years ago and where she is now is like a night and day. And I'm grateful to her that she created this possibility for us. So yes, it seems like it's me doing that, and it's yes, and so much more.
Mm-hmm. That's the beautiful thing about this work is, yes, it's personal, right? I think, yeah, the document really is like this personal internal commitment, right? But noticing that, again, like it doesn't just change our lives, it changes everybody's lives around us, just like you talked about with Klara. And I've seen the same thing, right? When we choose to create in that way, we will be met with a very different reaction, whether it's a colleague, a loved one, a stranger, somebody on the phone, whatever it is, right? If I'm greeting them with, I am a beam of love, that is one of my statements. If I'm greeting them with, I am a beam of love versus, what the fuck, get me my thing, I need it done now. What am I creating, right? But that's what happens, is because we live in this world of more, faster, 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 right? That's not what I ordered. I wanted that. I get it. We all have those default things, but I am choosing, yeah, to be a beam of love. Sometimes it's a hard choice, right? Because the default habit comes in and life comes in, and we'll talk more about that. I'm human, right? Just like everybody else, but that is what I am consciously choosing now. Yeah, is to be that beam of love. So, Igor, you talked about your evolution with the document, right? November 2022 till now. And I do think what's just important to highlight, right, for those listening is this work is an evolution. It doesn't stop. You don't just create your documents like you talked about, and that's it, I'm good to go. It is a choice every single, honestly, not just day, but like I just said, every single moment of each day, right? To decide who you want to be. Hopefully, Zoom. There we go. Good. It picked up on the heart. It really is. But to your point, I do think it will, right? There's going to be different versions, different iterations, depending upon what's maybe being called, where you feel good, like you talked about, maybe choosing different words that come in. Maybe I've got to imagine, and I think I just saw Steve posted about it in the Facebook group, right? That he did create a new version of the document, right? As he goes into his next phase of life. So that will naturally happen, but how do people know when that happens? How how do you when do you think about that next evolution from your perspective? Having just gone through this, and I've got my one document that I'm playing with right now.
Thank you for asking this question because it uncovers so much possibility, and it helps to become aware of the possible traps or the minefields along the way. This is where the conscious. So the question is, how do you know when to change your original conscious or when to change your conscious document?
Mm-hmm.
I want the. Please listen to me very carefully. The new conscious document, the way it is created, serves as a reminder of greatness, of who you are, of who I am. Sorry for that.
That is perfect timing for that. In case
For
people aren't watching, we just had some fireworks go beyond Igor's head. It was great.
for as you create your conscious document through the process, ideally with a guide, and there is a reason why ideal with the guide. There are a couple of errors that you can do as part of the process, and it helps in case it's that your being is in connection with another human being, and you co-create together.
Yeah.
As you create the new version, or as you create your conscious document, it it is a work in progress. That is true. However, in case the only thing you hear from this, what I'm telling you, oh yeah, you can change your conscious document, and you probably should. It should grow because it's a living thing. You're missing the point. The conscious document is your center of gravity, is your backbone on which your entire being can lean onto. You can come from a place of your backbone. And if you approach your backbone as a calendar that you can change every single day, the purpose of the backbone gets diminished.
Not too stable.
Not too stable, exactly. Because and if everything is rosy, I'm my document. And I will use your document. I'm a beam of love. It's easy to be beam of love when you're in this space, when everybody is nice to you, when the stranger on the road is letting you go, people apologize, people thank you. That's, of course, I'm a beam of love, right? But what happens when your father starts yelling at you, when your colleague is stealing your work, if
Yeah.
your sibling is rude to you?
When I have multiple deadlines that are coming up at work, when my boss gives me negative feedback, when I, get in a screaming match, right, with my loved one. Yeah, that's the good stuff where the document really comes into play.
If you come at this moment from a place, I can change my document, and you change, I'm a beam of light, or a beam of love, to I'm a god of thunder and avenger of unjust,
Yeah.
you're missing the point. Actually, during these occurrences in your life, when being your document seems to be hard, seems to be impossible even, these are the moments when if you choose to stick to your new conscious document, you grow. It's like watering the seed of I am love with intention and action. The tree that is coming out of the seed of I am love is becoming bigger and stronger. And you know that you are a beam of love. Even when you go against multiple deadlines, even if you enter a screaming match, even if whatever, this is where the rubber meets the road. If you doubt the doubts and not your document or conscious creation, your document is growing. That to say, the invitation here is, please, as you create your conscious document, use guide or be part of a group where you can lean onto your colleagues, onto your guide with your doubts that will emerge in your path. And
Yeah.
it helps you to stick onto your new conscious document. And now to answer your question. This was important to set the stage because if
It
I
was.
only answer with this, your backbone would be like, yeah, I can change this, I can change that, and basically from backbone you would get to bonsai. Now coming to changing your document. As part of the document creation, we create touchstones for the document, like printing it out, like creating a picture, like recording it.
Mm-hmm.
All of these achieve a couple of things. First, they make it real for you. My touchstones make my document real for me. For instance, as a possibility, I carry this thing, a stone that was given by a son of Ankush, as part of the immersion where my document was created, and it's a reminder for me. And as you have your document recorded by the people whom you admire and trust, as you have it printed out, as you perhaps commission an artist to to draw your document, it makes it more real for you, and it makes it harder to change. It does not make it impossible. When to change your document? When you feel, when you are in that space that you get into as part of the document creation multiple times. It's a place of self-compassion, love, and peace. From that space, you can change your document. And this is a space from which I was adjusting mine. For
Mm.
instance, expanding the adjectives for my wife. Originally, it was my beloved, amazing wife, Klara. And eventually it came to beloved, amazing, beautiful, energetic, sexy goddess and wife, Klara. Why? Because I create her as that.
Yeah,
Guess what I have at home if I create her like this? I have a sexy goddess. Who wouldn't want to do that? Right?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's the way that I describe it, and what you're saying is every day you get to practice the statement and you get to, I call it embodiment of each statement. And that is where I am. I've created it. I am practicing it. I am embodying each one more and more to this place. And I love what you said is, and I think it's a feeling. I think it's a knowing, right? You talked about love and peace and contentment with it, right? So it's not like a, oh, I'm 40 years old entering a new decade, or I'm going to be 50 entering a new decade, got to do a new document. No, that's not it, right? It is a true knowing inside that you are at peace with that statement, because again, every statement comes from a previous judgment and that default. So how can you fully, right? Part of the process is fully that self-forgiveness of each one and really live from this new place. Yeah. So that's where I am, is playing with that, right? As I build and work with my new document, where all these opportunities for me to practice these. And yeah, there's been moments where, right, we had a call and I was like, Igor, something's really sticky here. Like I'm noticing a judgment come up, right? And that's the first piece of the process, is just noticing these default patterns, right? And then working through them with that self-love, with that compassion, and being able to see and create the other side of it. Yeah. It truly is an evolution. It's a evolution. Do I dare use the word? It's like an intimacy with each statement. It really is. To know the nuances of it, to feel it, to act on it. Um, Again, it's not just words on a page. It is so much more than that. It is so much more than that. And sometimes I feel like it's hard for me to even like put into words, right? Like what it is. Um, but it is. It's truly like just this way of being that is felt um by yourself and by everybody around you.
You put it beautifully, B. And two things came up for me.
Yeah, please share.
Three. As you create your document with a guide or as a part of group, if you change it, come from a place of bliss, of contentment, of love. From that space, it makes sense because the purpose of the document is not to look good. It's to remind you of who you truly are. If you're changing a document, just, oh my God, my colleague is having a more beautiful, more powerful document. You're missing it. It's not for your colleague. It's not for your mother. It's not for your whatever kids. It's for you. So come from that space. Second, in case you're unsure and you're new at this, please reach out to somebody and ask them. As part of my mission, which is to create 1 million conscious documents, I am creating a network of these people who understand the being of the document. It's not a rigid process, it's really just allowing the tree of life of you, of me, of your clients, of my clients, to grow. There is no prescriptions. So reach out to a guide. And the third, and perhaps the most important thing is the words in your document do not have to shift a tiniest bit for your entire document to be completely different. What do I mean by that? As you are speaking, I'm talking to you now. As you are speaking, I am beam of love every single day. And you're being beam of love every single day. You see more and more what that means for you. It might mean in the beginning that you bring love to every situation. And as you evolve, I guarantee you that the way you saw the I am beam of love in January is nowhere near where you see it now. As you speak it now, it means completely expanded state of being for you.
Yeah.
So for instance, in order for your document to change, perhaps not a single word needs to be changed. It's just your understanding, your being with your document now resonates on such a deep level with your sentence. And let me give you an example from my point. As I created I'm returning to the father role of my life. As I created, I'm an incredible father and unique role model who loves and supports our admirable kids, Victor, Teresa, and Igor, and I live for them and I die for them. At least two major insights happened as I was being that. First one was, originally I was so fucking proud about, and I die for them because it meant I'm willing to die. They say jump and I jump. That's the ultimate sacrifice. I'm willing to give my life for them. Is there anything more? And as I was speaking the line of my document, I actually heard, and I live for them and I die for them. And I realized that actually living for them is so much more important. I can throw away my life in an instant. However, if I choose consciously to invest next 100 years of my life to live for them, that's an investment. That was the first shift, where the die for them and live for them got flipped in terms of the meaning. Second major insight in this particular statement for me was, I'm an incredible father and unique role model, and so on and so forth. And I saw this statement as that's defining who I am as a father to my admirable kids, to our admirable kids, Victor, Teresa, and Igor. And when I was speaking one day, unique role model for myself, to myself, I realized, no, if I just took this single phrase, I'm an incredible father and unique role model, and lived this phrase with my utmost attention, with my kids in mind, it would impact me as a brother, it would impact me as son, it would impact me as a manager, it would impact me as entrepreneur, it would impact me as a part of community, it would impact me in every single area of my life, because I am a role model for my kids. What kind of role model am I as a father? What kind of role model I am as a son? What kind of role model I am as a part of society of Bratislava, of Slovakia? Guess what happened with my statement, with my document? It transformed completely. Now, as I speak it, I see all of this, what I shared with you.
Yeah. So, Igor, let's take that one step further because it's something I'm noticing as I'm living each statement is the depth of each statement, like you're talking about. But what about the interconnectedness of some of your statements? Um, and I share this because very specifically, there's two statements in my document, as you were just telling your story, that I'm noticing are very intertwined. So it's I am a beam of love and I'm authentically communicating. I'm noticing, I think with both of those, it's very potentially easy to go to this place of like, yeah, just be love, just be light, right? Shine on people, like all this, like the good touchy feely stuff. But what I'm actually noticing is that is a piece of it. And what the universe is giving me right now opportunities to be love and to communicate, even in moments where the natural instinct may not necessarily be to go there, right? Or you're in a space of a lot of hostility or potential frustration, right? And how do I embody being a beam of love while also sharing the truth, which somebody may not want to hear, right? So it may not be that light and airy, right? Type of moments, but it is what needs to be said, right? It is what I am being called to co-create. And it truly, though, is still coming from a place of love.
So the question is how to integrate these two.
Well, I'm curious how the statements within your documents, yes, in addition to each statement having depth, how do they intertwine? How do they co-create for you?
For instance, I shared one example, where I saw the depth of being a unique role model. And this connects to every single other line in my document. As I am being an immediate action and eternal abundance, I am a role model for them, for my kids. As you spoke, and I want to answer your question as well. I'm a beam of love, and I'm authentically communicating. The beam of love does not mean or does not need to mean all fluffy roses and unicorns.
Exactly.
Might be a firm parent. In case you see your kid running off the cliff, coming from a place of authentically communicating and being a beam of love, you would probably throw yourself at them and just bring them back. Steve Hardison uses a beautiful metaphor. I can be incredibly loving while driving their head through a wall just to demonstrate something from a place of love.
Yeah.
Being loved does not mean or does not need to mean that I'm a doormat. No.
Yep. So it's not
And
just, yeah, go ahead.
and as you as and I'm so glad that you brought this, because it means that you're really living your document. And as your clients, as people who have their documents, are living their documents, all of these synchronicities and synergies will emerge for them. And with it's not about what answer I provide, it's the learning that occurs to them. And you already took the lesson that I told now out loud. And this is what the conscious creation of myself, of yourself is doing. It allows to go deeper and deeper and coming from a place of authenticity in love.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not just the depth of the statements, but it's also going back to a little bit, I think, the power of language, how you start to define the statements, right? Starts to expand. So exactly what you just said, Igor, is for me, I think the word love, that definition is expanding in so many really cool, interesting ways, just like you're talking about, is yeah, love is, right? Sometimes love is putting your head against the wall, right? Like you talked about the analogy with Steve. It is. And it's because we see the potential. We know what's there, right? Sometimes love is just holding space for somebody to cry if a client comes in with that energy, right? But just I think that's part of this process too, is being open to the possibility of these new definitions. Yeah. Like I'm sitting here thinking about a conversation I had with a client this week about the word retirement. And how do you want to define retirement? Right? Retirement doesn't, well, retirement, like for me, retirement for my parents meant you stop working at 65, right? And that is retirement. You focus on your hobbies, what you love. It's great. We're now in a new world, and I'm my own person. You're your own person. What do you want retirement to mean for you? How do you want to consciously create, going back to, I think, all of this today, what that means for you? And you get to decide. Other people's version of it is beautiful for them. It is beautiful. And that's what they knew. There's nothing wrong with that. But you also get to determine what you want that to mean and you want that to look like. It's so like liberating, isn't it? Like, it's kind of like mind blowing, right? That we really can do that, right? We as humans, and again, we don't realize it, which is why I do want to emphasize what you said, Igor, for everybody listening is, you know, it is, I think, crucial to do this work in a space with somebody else, whether it's one on one, like I did with you, or with a group, like you talked about. But having somebody around you that is living, right, from this place of more possibility with you to co create, because we ourselves, right, we can only go as far as we have taken ourselves, right? And we say that a lot in the coaching world with our clients, right? But it comes back to us because coaches are people too, you know? And I wouldn't have been able to go through this process at the level and depth and everything that I went through it if I didn't have you, because you have what, 2.5, 3 more years of experience with this work. And that's 2.5, 3 more years of possibility that I didn't have. And again, there's nothing wrong with it, but you are just able to bring such a different perspective and to lovingly challenge me in new ways and to see what's really underneath the words that I'm using and what's happening in a new light that I literally cannot see. I can't because I'm not at that level of possibility. So I share that because that is the power of having a coach and being in that type of a container is to help you break free of those, right? And to, I always call it, shed those layers to get down to, yeah, your true consciousness.
Yes. There is nothing else to be added, Abby. That was brilliant. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So I guess, Igor, for anybody like listening to this, that's like, this sounds really interesting. Like, what for anybody where it like piques their interest,
Mhm.
what guidance, what did, what advice would you give them? Whether they've gone through this process before and they're thinking about, maybe there's more there, or maybe they've never gone through the process at all. What
If
would
you've
you tell
never,
them?
first and foremost, I would advise them to join the Ultimate Coach group.
On
That
Facebook? Yeah.
on Facebook,
Yep.
yeah. For sure, please buy in case you haven't already, the Ultimate Coach book and read it in a very specific way. Yes, the book can be read as this biography of this dude, Steve Hardison, and that's not it. You would miss the point. This is the book about you. In case you read it with an intention, this book is about me, and you first read the back cover with the question that open heart and mind, then first 2 pages forward written by Steve Hardison. By the way, the story is incredible. But the first 2 pages, again, that help you focus into the possibility of reading this book as if it was about you. That's the first step. In case you're not into reading, you can go to Audible. There is an audio version. I read the book myself 3 times, and I listened to it like, I don't know, 9, 10 times. So that's step number one.
Yeah.
Step number two, again, people are waking up to the possibility that the conscious document creation provides them, and there are groups where they help people to create their documents. You can become part of that group. In case you want to have a personalized guide, you can reach to Abby, who is the depth with which you approached it in just 3 months of living your conscious document is incredible. It never occurred to me the synergies between the statements. I don't know, year and a half after the document, but that's beside the point. Reach out to an experienced guide like Abby or myself. Ask in the Ultimate Coach group on Facebook.
Yeah. There's resources. There's
There's
resources. You don't have to go alone. Mm-hmm.
So this is the first couple of steps I would invite you to.
Yeah. And what would you also tell somebody who is ready to embark on this journey? What is required of them to bring to this journey to get the most out of it?
In case you're ready, bring your highest level listening to the conversation. The process itself is incredible. It's self-correcting. What everybody is talking about as the document, they see the text. Oh my God, Steve has this beautiful text. Be still and know that I am God with small g. I am the universe. I, love is I'm that. I want that. The document is so much more than the words. It's the process, how you created that. It's actually learning to be aware of your current state. It's learning to be kind to yourself. Take it as a practice that you get to practice for the rest of your life. And in the end, what is the most important thing is shift my being. When I'm not being my highest version of myself, return to the possibility of actually coming from I'm a beam of love. If you are communicating not so authentically, be open to coming from a place I'm authentically communicating.
Yeah.
Bring your highest level listening and teach and learn the process. The document is a reminder of the being and of the process. Do you want to add something to this, Abby? Because you have gone through this process relatively recently, so I think this makes you a perfect person to provide the advice to people.
Yeah, you're right. Listening, no doubt. I guess a few other words that come to mind for me, Igor, in terms of like requirements for the process. Um, Openness, vulnerability, patience, compassion, love. Um, it's it's a process, it's a journey. And I think that's the thing is, again, yes, obviously there's excitement, right? And you have to want to do this, but I'm not going to sit here and tell people like it's not all roses and unicorns in this process, right? Like I think it is very important to like call that out for people, right? When you do this type of personal growth and self-development work and new creation, I guess the analogy I'll use is again, yoga background, lotus comes from the mud. That's how we grow. And that's what this is all about. And that's the first step is looking at the mud, looking at the dirty clothes in the corner of that room, right? And being like, that's an interesting default thought that for some reason has just come in, right? But I think the biggest thing that you taught me and part of this process is self-forgiveness. And I've never truly sat, I think, with self-forgiveness as long as we did together and really look at every single statement. I mean, part of the self-forgiveness is like really looking at what's underneath that with a fine-tooth comb. You know that, I know that. Remember how many iterations that would go through to think about here's my defaults, here's my default statement, what's really underneath that, right? To get to that true statement that it is today. But it requires you to hold, yeah, just so much of all of those qualities at once, right? So again, I think it's just this reminder that yes, the mud can still produce the most beautiful things, but you got to stick with the process and trust the process. And when you have a guide, right, that can hold the space for you during the process, it does make it that much, I would say, lighter, enjoyable. Do I dare even say, Igor, we actually did have a lot of fun with it too. There were moments, right, where yes, I came in crying, but there were always moments too where, yeah, we were able to have fun with it. And you do. I guess two other words too is like an innocence and a neutrality. We talk a lot about that. You have to have that in this process. And you may not have it at first, and that's okay, but that is part of, I think, the growth as you go through it, to be able to look at these default statements, be like, oh, ha ha ha, right? Like now I can a little bit, depending upon the statement, be like, wow, and that will happen over time, right? Because we're experiencing, and the more we experience, the more we expand. And that's what it's all about is expanding our relationship with the statements, with the words, everything in our being.
That's it.
That is it.
One last thing I want to add. I was
Yes,
watching,
please.
I was watching the recording of the Ultimate Experience Mumbai edition, and I was watching the Steve Hardison keynote speech. And in that speech, and it's just I don't know, a year ago, and it's like 30 years into career of Steve Hardison as a coach, as a conscious creator of himself, he actually admitted to fact that he got angry at one of the staff in the hotel. And this taught me so much about being kind to myself, not holding myself to an impossible standard and then beating myself to mud. No, it's being aware that we're human, and the journey is the fact that we sometimes sleep, and it doesn't count. It doesn't matter how many times I sleep. What matters that I return always back to me, to the journey.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I heard when you said innocence and neutrality.
Yeah. Yeah. You always have that choice to come back to center at any moment, to come back to your document. Always. You have the power. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Igor, thank you for this beautiful discussion today. I absolutely loved it. You know how much I love you going through the process. And it was fun today, too, to learn even more about your process. I didn't know all those. So, thank you. Thank you for sharing, as always, with an open heart and all of your wisdom with us. So, if people want to learn more about you, Igor, if they want to coach with you, how can they get in touch with you?
You can reach out to me either on Instagram or Facebook, or via email. It's igor.furdik, igor.furdik @gmail.com.
Perfect. I would put that in the show notes. And what is your Instagram and Facebook handle name?
Ah, yes. Look into the show notes.
That's what we will do. I'll drop them in there because when I heard you say Instagram, I don't even think we're connected on Instagram. So you've got a new follower coming your way today.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. Well, Igor, great to talk with you again. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom and knowledge with all of us. I'll just reiterate what we started with. Um, you're literally changing lives around the world. So just keep doing what you're doing, and the ripple effects, it's already been happening and it will continue to happen. And I hope that this podcast, right, creates the ripple effects of the next generation that's coming with us on this document journey.
Thank you so much, Abby. You're an incredible beam of love. I see that. And
Thank you.
this is a pleasure and an honor to be part of this journey with you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, Igor, have a great day and we will talk soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.